another powerful thing that happened was once I wrote these things down in the book and it got published, like I have to practice what I preach, and so that also helps me get out of my comfort zone. It's like, oh no, I just
Yeah.
told the whole world that I'm going to do this, so I have to do it.
Hey everyone, it's Melanie Johnson, one of the owners of Elite Online Publishing. We are here with Matt Rigsby. He is the author of Don't Fight It, Just Ride It. So his book recently came out. We're going to dive in, and he has a business called Medicine River Academy. If you're interested in going river rafting, we'll throw that in too, or you can catch it. But Matt, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your book and why you wrote it.
Well, I wrote it for several reasons, and it's actually the first of three books. I'm close to finishing the second one now, but it's stories from my life, and I've had a very untraditional, exciting life. A lot of people say, and I've been told multiple times to write that I should be writing a book, and I've
Yeah.
even felt like I should be writing a book. So I finally, about a year ago, decided I was going to treat it like my job last winter, and sat down and in my mind, I was like, I'm going to write for 6 to 8 hours a day. And there were a lot of days it turned into 12, 14 hours. And like, I would just come in my office in the morning when it's still dark out, and it's like 5 in the morning, and start writing, and sun would come up. And once you're in the zone, I just didn't want to quit. And then the sun would go down, it's like, time just disappears. So that's when you're in the zone. And yeah, my wife would check on me, or do you need some food in there or anything? And it just was so much fun. And in my head, as far as my process goes, I would say, okay, if I start a chapter, I'm going to continue writing until that chapter's finished, just for the
Good.
keep the flow going and find a good stopping place. But that would easily lead into the next chapter and the next chapter. And it was so much fun. I mean, the overlying theme is why it's important to leave your comfort zones. And I give the
Mhm.
examples of what I've done and where that's taken me in my life. And then I give a lot of easy ways for people to do that for themselves. I also touch on how the body heals itself, and ways that people can start, utilizing that, connecting with nature, which has been a big part of my adventures, just chasing rivers all over the world, and rock climbing, skiing, mountain biking, and just immersing myself in nature as much as possible. But once I started going back through my, like back to childhood, I
Yeah.
didn't think I would remember things as vividly as I did, but it was just amazing. Like, once you really, it's a meditative space, I would say, once you're that quiet and recalling these memories, and then you start to remember the way things smelled and looked and felt, and the other people that were there and what they looked like. Like, I don't even remember, didn't expect to remember any of this.
It's
And
almost like getting therapy. I tell people when you write a book, especially if you're reflecting on your own life or your knowledge, it's like either you're getting your because you're recanting all these things, you're getting therapy for yourself because you're reanalyzing the journey that you took. And if you're sharing your expertise, sometimes you have aha moments about your expertise that even pushes you forward during the process. I don't know if you had any of those moments while you were writing the book.
many, many, yeah. In fact, when I first started writing it, I had, you have the little voice in your head, like, nobody is going to care about what you have to say, is what I'm telling myself. But I just keep writing, and then I would share some of it with my wife, and she's like, this is amazing. This is really, really good stuff. And now that it's out, and people are reading it, the feedback that I'm getting is just amazing, how it's helping people learn to leave their comfort zones and trust themselves. And I'm really excited to see how this grows, and as more people read it, I'll get more good feedback. And it's just confirmation, to not listen to that voice in your head that tells you nobody wants to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's great that you're saying I was gonna ask you, like, what kind of response have you gotten from your book? And it sounds like people are being inspired. How does that make you feel when you know you're making a difference because of your book?
Amazing. I mean, that's really why I wrote it. I mean, it was therapy for me, but we're at a time in Earth's history where our society is so detached from nature that I feel like, this reconnection with nature will really just help everyone. I know it will if they'll just take the time to go out in nature. But if they're struggling to do that, I give some really good ways to ease into it. But the feedback, like if I've already had a lot more than one person tell me that it has changed their life in a positive way. But if just one person says, "Oh my gosh, this is what I needed to hear at this time in my life," then that to me made all the hours sitting down writing worth it. And it's been happening a lot. So yeah,
You think about one even if it is one person, the ripple effect of that, because that one person now all of a sudden may tell someone else, right? Or their philosophy changes and they're spreading it to other people, and those people are spreading it to other people. So it really has kind of this mushroom effect when you think about it. What else has happened? Like here you are on our podcast, a guest on both of our podcasts, Elite Expert Insider and our publishing podcast. What doors have opened and opportunities are you finding? Because your book came out just a few months ago that are happening for you.
well, assistance for the school was one of the things that came from it because I do mention the Medicine River Academy in the book and
Mhm.
why I did it. And we now have started a relationship with the University of Idaho through that. That the person that's in charge of their outdoor education program said they have students and they want to do this sort of thing, but they don't have someone to provide the service. So they're going to use us and then they'll send us the tuition money for their students. So that's one really cool thing that opened up. The quality of people entering my life has gotten a lot better, which is uh, it's good. I live in a tiny little town in the Rocky Mountains of Idaho, and there's 3,000 people in my town. So it's pretty limited, mostly ranchers and stuff, and nothing against any of them, but I don't have a lot of people that think the way I do here, and through the writing of the book, now those people are kind of finding me, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah,
Expanding your circle.
absolutely, in a good way. I've heard before that you're the sum total of the 5 people closest to you,
Mhm.
and when I first heard that, I was looking around like, "Oh, this isn't necessarily so good." And I did actually like, my whole state of being has changed, and once that starts to happen, the people that weren't healthy necessarily for me have just kind of faded away, and I stopped trying to connect with those people, which I thought was something that was my comfort zone. Like I might have had relationships that were toxic, but they were familiar, so I would just keep going back to them, even though it wasn't doing me any good. And once I stopped doing that, things started to line up a lot better and start to feel a
Wow.
lot better and love myself, you know?
So this book has really been life-changing for you, and not just opportunity-wise, but personal and changing your whole life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like I'm finally falling into my authentic self and living up to my potential, which I had always felt like I was a good person, but I wasn't really being in service to others, which the school
Mhm.
now is to be in service. The books that I'm writing are to be in service, and it's all just to help raise the collective vibration.
Yeah, I tell people it's not always about book sales. They're all like, "Well, what's my ROI?" People pay us to publish their books, so when am I going to get my money back? And I said, "There's so many things that are intangible that you get from writing your book and putting it out there, like you say, changing somebody's life or changing your own life and your own perspective that you can't put a dollar value on." So it's really refreshing to hear that from you about how life changing this has been. So I'm gonna change gears a little bit. Talk to me about your publishing process. What was that like, and how did you choose a publisher? Or it didn't look like you published it yourself. It looked like you had someone that helped you publish it.
I
Walk us
did.
through that.
So I just sent a sample story, one of the stories from the book that I had written, to a publisher, and he read the story and said, "This is great. Write the book and we'll publish it." And so it kind of went that route. And I did take a course actually that he put together. His name's Keith Leon S. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Keith, but yeah, the Baby Pie Publishing and Beyond Belief Publishing are the 2 things that he does, but he also had a writing course that I read through. I did about the first 3 volumes of 12, I think, and
Oh,
got the
wow.
general idea of it, but I did create a vision board with,
Mhm.
the pictures that represented stuff that I wanted to talk about in my book, and
Nice.
then I created a roadmap to success, which is just the stories that I wanted to put in the book, and I wrote them down with no particular sequence or anything, just I wanna write about this, 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 and I think there were about 20 stories that I wanted to write about. I went through a number, sequenced them at that point, but once I started writing, things had a little bit felt like they would flow better in a slightly different order. I think about 15 of those out of the 20 stories actually made it into the book. But another powerful thing that happened was once I wrote these things down in the book and it got published, like I have to practice what I preach, and so that also helps me get out of my comfort zone. It's like, oh no, I just
Yeah.
told the whole world that I'm going to do this, so I have to do it. Accountability.
Now, with the publisher, is it a traditional publishing house or is it a self-publishing where they are a hybrid publisher?
I think they're a traditional publishing. Yeah, I
So
don't know.
traditional
I don't know
publish
the
Oh, yeah, well, that's a good question. So, a traditional publishing house usually gives you an advance for the book and pays you, where a hybrid or a self-publishing company like us, you pay us and we do it for you. It's kinda like we're the general contractor building your house versus you building it yourself, or, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, yeah. So this one I did pay. There was an option where I could go through a different company, but they were gonna keep a percentage of the sales, and I didn't know what
Right.
that was gonna look like. So
Yeah.
I thought maybe I'll just pay for it myself and then just see what happens, and I didn't primarily write this for monetary purposes. My motivation is way
Right.
deeper than that, and if I happen to make some money in the process, awesome.
Yeah, and you can see you've been reaping the rewards from it. I wanna give you a couple tips, especially for the Medicine River Academy. If they'll allow you to go back in and do a little edit on your book, we always like to put a call to action in the beginning of the book. And so what that means is if you have, let's say, a QR code or you put the website to the Medicine River Academy in there and maybe give them, a free something. Like I always say, hey, opt in here and I'll give you my 5 tips on or 10 tips on or whatever it might be. And then you get their name and email address. So then you can promote your next book to them. Right. But then they can also donate and say, and if you'd like to donate to the Medicine River Academy, here's a link to do so, right? So that way, even when I'm previewing your book before I even buy your book, I'll say, "Oh, I could donate to this. Let me check that out." So it's another way to promote yourself and increase the audience for your next book and to get more donations, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that.
Yep. And then the other thing I would say that your author missed, there's a thing called an Amazon author page. So there you connect your bio, a picture of yourself and a bio goes there. And you can talk about your background. And also, again, you can mention Medicine River Academy. And so it lets people know. And then that populates on Google search because Amazon is such a powerful search engine. Then if people are looking for your name, that'll also pop up and they can just see your bio right there. So my couple author tips for you going down the road.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, I was actually writing down notes.
Good. Yeah, I always like to help people and do a little analysis for them if I yeah, that's what I would of doing that. And so tell us about what are you planning to do for your next book?
Well, it's kind of an extension of the first book. So that as people were telling me I should write a book, it just about my life, it seemed like too daunting of a task to put all in one book. And I'm guilty of this myself. We have short attention spans these days and like instant gratification. So I just wrote short book. These are all this first book is 88 pages and covers a lot of ground. So it's a really fast, easy, fun read
Yeah,
and catered to folks like me that have kind of a short attention span. And there
right.
is kind of a rewarding feeling whenever you finish a book, regardless of how long it is. You have some sense of accomplishment. So
I
look
know.
at that, but I broke it down over 3 books just to make it less daunting, and I also know that I'm constantly evolving and my way of phrasing things is changing as the
Mhm.
times change and as I change, and so I think by doing it this way, the languaging will be more current and the message will be more relevant to the
Yeah.
time that is happening right now.
I would say another tip that just popped in my head for, marketing for you and to spread the word, and maybe you're already doing this, is when especially when the young students are coming in, to give them a copy of the book or give them, an e-copy of the book, right? A downloadable one, 'cause everyone wants to just see something on their phone. So you can either give them a physical copy, which might cost a little money, but you could even give them a downloadable version for everyone who comes to the camp, whether it's adults or kids, and then you're just spreading that message even further.
Yeah, for the adults, that's a great idea. The kids, there's some stories that are fairly unsavory. It's a brutally
Okay.
it's a very brutally honest depiction of my and some of the kids might the parents might not be ready for their kids to hear.
Yeah, it'll be good for the parents, there
There
you
we go,
go.
yeah.
I love that, I love that. Well, thanks for being on today, Matt, and inspiring us, and I love everything that the book has done for you. What an inspiration and really a message to authors to encourage them to write their books because it's not only just the monetary part. We always say that, you can leave a legacy and change the world. So when you're not here, you've passed on that wisdom that you have for generations in the future. So what a wonderful gift, and it's come back to you tenfold, it sounds like already. I can tell by the smile on your face that it's really changed your life. If you're thinking of coming with becoming an author, remember to always reach out to us at eliteonlinepublishing.com. You can check our website out and see if we're a good fit for you. We'll see you next time. Keep writing, everybody. Bye bye.